Last time we talked about winter arc, which is this buzzword when it comes to winter. And another one is cuffing season. So this is the season where a lot of people are just looking to find somebody that they can spend time with, that they can just hold on to while it's cold in order to get some dopamine happening. And, I really look at these things and I have to laugh, but it's not funny at all, because if you scroll through TikTok or any other social media platform, it is astounding and it's really soul crushing and it's really shocking how much relationships have turned into this transactional thing. So this is what you have to do for me. This is what you have to bring to the table. This is the bare minimum I'm going to accept, whatever it may be. And it seems like relationships become harder and harder because they're not based on what truly matters. And let's be honest, for us INFJs, this is a whole different animal, because for us, transactional love relationship is a no-go from the get-go. But let's really talk about how we can find love, how we can maintain love in such a transactional world, how we have to stop judging others, because there's one thing that we can do really well that a lot of other people struggle with, and that's why they turn into those strategies, and how we can find a middle ground where we can find partners that we can match with without expecting them to be somebody that they're not. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the INFJ HERMIT playbook. You can also get the video course on financial abundance and energy management. Everything you need to know, you can find through links in the description. So it looks like relationships are turning into something that is very transactional. And this is what so many people are focused on. As I said, I watch social media and I laugh until I remember, no, this isn't a joke. This isn't a parody. This is what people are actually doing. And for me, this is extra weird because this is not what I experienced while I was, in my youth or in my 20s. Probably because, I used to live in Germany, now in Belgium, so it's not a big thing over here anyway. But even when I was in the States and I had a long relationship with somebody in the States, none of that was really an issue. So this is something that, is just flooding the world. So if you're currently in a position where you say, I want to find a relationship, I don't want to focus on those transactional things, and that's why I'm going to stay single forever, let me give you another perspective. We as INFJs are really good at deep emotional intimacy. And you have to look at it from the perspective of you're able to breathe underwater. You can stay underwater for a long time. And what we very often do is we ask others, why are you not staying here with me? What is the problem? Why are you talking about those surface level things? Is it something I did? Not understanding that we're sort of pushing the other person to come underwater when they cannot breathe there. It's just not possible for them. And that doesn't mean that that person is superficial. That doesn't mean that, they don't love us. It doesn't mean that they don't care about us. It's just not how they're built. And when we start looking at life this way, we can have empathy and understanding why people go to things like transactional relationships, not meaning in a way of, okay, I'm going to give you money and that's why you go out with me, not that kind of thing, but sort of to say from a perspective of, well, this is who I am, and I see myself as a 6, so I'm also going to go for a 6. Those kind of things, like, rather superficial things than like, oh, we have such a deep connection and, there was growth that, I felt like was going to happen if we continue on this journey. And that's when we come to the INFJ inner conflict. So for us INFJs, it seems like the moment something becomes in any kind of way transactional, we lose interest because the emotional depth is not there. And I really encourage you to take a step back and to know that if you're really looking to mesh with a person to that level, you're probably leaning into codependency. I definitely was. It is not what is the healthiest thing for us. What we want is for us to be a complete person and to kind of like ask, who fits into my life? Not what person can come into my life that will relieve me from the burden of being myself. Not what person will come into my life that will be my purpose. And definitely not what person can come into my life that will make me finally feel seen and understood. Yes, we want those things, but we don't want them just with one person. This is a fundamental truth I learned, and I learned it the hard way because We are not meant to kind of like say, oh, I'm going to hide who I am from the world, and then I'm going to add one person that I'm going to share that with, and then everything is going to be okay. No, it's still not enough, because you cannot rely on one person to bring you happiness. You can't rely on one person to be a solution, because that's when you go overboard. That's when you do things that are not healthy. That's when, codependent dynamics are happening, and it pretty much happens on autopilot. We're not even aware of it. So what is the solution? Well, it's twofold. On the one hand, we have to tap into our purpose. So every single time you felt, oh, I could have a really deep emotional connection with that person, ask yourself, what was this based on? How can I create this emotional state as much as possible independent from that person? It's just a necessity, because we all been in a situation where we met somebody and we felt, oh, this was a catalyst. I experience life differently now. I can't be the same person I was before. But we kind of like think it's because of that person. It's because we have to find that connection with them. And if this is not happening, then I'm never going to be happy. Well, of course, that's not the case, but it's a mirror. Other people can be a mirror to us as well. We have to create a life that is exciting. As long as you feel another person is going to be your solution, another person is going to give you meaning, something is off. And, we all have compassion for that. I've been in that situation. I know how hard it is, but it is possible to create a life that feels exciting to you. And what we want then is for another person to come into our life. And this is the second part of the equation. So when you already know this is where I want my life to go, and it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, I don't buy into this, oh, a man has to have a direction and the woman kind of like jumps on like the boat and goes in the direction the man wants. Whatever that may be. I really don't buy into this, because there has to be a part of you, no matter what kind of gender you are, no matter what kind of sexual orientation you have, that you say, this is where I want my life to go. And it doesn't have to be something as specific as, I need to live in this country, or I need to do this kind of job, but that you know what you want to do with your life, how you want to show up, how you want, people to treat you, that we create a life where we know, if I stayed by myself, I would be fine. Like, I have already created something that I know I can be happy with, that I know that I am proud of the person that I'm becoming. And then you're not going to crave those deep emotional connections anymore, because you will know, I already feel so full by myself because of the things that I do. So I'm not saying that if you stay at your house and you don't create any impact, you don't have any meaningful conversations with anybody, you're going to feel fulfilled. Right? We're still human beings. We still need connection. We still need some kind of belonging. But please don't make it out to be with like one particular person, and that person defines how you're going to live your life. Just because we're cerebral beings, just because we love living in our head, that does not mean that this is the way to go. Like, every single INFJ that I've talked with, who's gone through similar situation has recognized, okay, something is off here. Like, this is not happening in a correct way. This is not making me feel good. And on top of that, it seems like the other person sees everything differently. Why is it so obvious for me to see that there is a lesson to be learned here, that we should spend time together, and that person is at a completely different crossroad, has completely different challenges? So I have learned that it's completely normal for every single person to have different challenges, to have different things that are holding them back or pulling them towards something, and to stop judging it. We are not better human beings because we can be emotionally deep and others may not be, or that they're afraid to do that. It's just not the case. And then when you look at this, you can have that much more compassion for, people who say, let me look for a partner who can give me those three things, and then, I will be okay. So that's when we start to understand others without judgment. Like, of course, you can't stop judging altogether. It's just a natural thing, but it really helps with this whole situation. And I think for us INFJs, it's that much more important to understand this and to learn the lesson, because otherwise we're always going to relive this loop of, what was wrong? Why didn't this work out? Because we're idealists. We're focusing on a possible scenario, how things could turn out, that work perfectly in our mind. But again, and this is with everything that I teach, you can't rely on things that are outside of your control. if I create this channel and I have this as a business, I don't control if a single person works with me. But because I talk to so many INFJs and there's resonance, the chances get higher that somebody will work with me. The same thing goes for dating. So you as an INFJ have to figure out, what kind of life do I want to live? And I'm going to be transactional, meaning I have a plan of how I want my life to, live out, if I want to be married, if I want to have kids, where I probably want to live, what kind of life I want to lead. And then I'm going to look for somebody who can complement this, who will fit into this life, and not kind of like be completely open and say, okay, I'm waiting for this spark that will make me feel alive, and then we will find a solution. So how do we as INFJs really find love then? I encourage you, don't say, okay, if I can't have deep emotional connection, then I don't want it at all. It can develop. Like, really allow people to come to this at their own pace. If you spend time with somebody that you can trust, if you spend time with somebody that you have things in common with, that you have a project with, right? So, for example, yes, we both want a family. Yes, we both want kids. Yes, our lives are able to be combined. So, when I met my husband, I was already, doing this full time. So I didn't work a corporate job anymore. And my husband has to move a lot for work. So that was already something that was possible. And my husband really was looking for somebody with the intention of, I'm not going to start dating somebody who has like a stable job at one place. This is not the normal way an INFJ would approach something, right? Normally it's like, oh, like I want this connection, and then we feel like we can enrich each other's lives and so on. No, he actually said, why look into this direction if I already know where my life is headed? Who would fit into this life? And I really encourage you to do the same. You're not giving up on your depth. You're not giving up on who you are. But we really need those two pillars. The one is that you start living out your purpose outside of that relationship. And then second of all, to be very clear on like those externally observable facts, the TE, the extroverted thinking part. What transactional or superficial aspects does the other person have to bring into this equation? So that means, go into philanthropic causes that matter to you, where you will find like-minded people. Or if you go on a dating site, please go somewhere where it's not Tinder or something like this, but where you pay money, where there's a real psychological test, where, you will find somebody who will mesh with you. I am somebody who spends a lot of time at home. I'm a homebody. My husband is a homebody. If he was somebody who constantly wanted to do social events, and vice versa, it will be very draining. We both knew we wanted marriage, we both knew we wanted kids, and we both knew that we could combine our lives. And yes, these are superficial things. Yes, these are transactional things of, what do you bring into the equation? What do I bring into the equation? But if you know that this is a person with good intentions, somebody who's proven to you that they're trustworthy, and if the other person already shows you this is the life I already created, not the life we could create together, but this is a life I already created without the INFJ in my life, then this is something that we can work with. Can this person add something to my life? We're not looking for somebody to be our solution. We're not looking for somebody for whom we can be a solution. We're looking for somebody who knows where they're headed in life, for somebody whose life is combinable with ours. And if you spend time with that person and you work on projects together, like, for example, building a family, or moving in together, or whatever it may be, a lot of that depth that you're looking for will happen. And just because that person isn't able to tap into this right away like you are, because as we said, we can just deep dive naturally. And if a person can do this with us right away, then there's something wrong either with me or with this connection. But you actually allow things to unfold in a way that makes sense. I'm not saying naturally, I'm saying that it makes sense, because all the times when things haven't worked out in the past for me, I can look back at those situations and know, yeah, those guys actually knew from the get-go, this is not going to work long-term, because our lives wouldn't have been able to be combined long-term. And so as long as we INFJs only lean into this, oh, I need this great connection and all of this, we're always going to feel like, well, then it doesn't make sense to date. But if you really look at it from the perspective of, let me first build the stepping stones, those external things, those transactional things, like really look at it from that perspective. I don't judge other people that they may go about it from that perspective, then that depth can develop. You can give people time to get accustomed to you. And somebody said it perfectly in one of my last videos. So my husband is an ISTJ. And, at first sight, you could say, well, ISTJs are very solid. Like, where's the fluidity there and the connection and so on. But it's like you as an INFJ are water. And at some point, that water just goes through the entire stone, right? So just think of it like this. You don't need to have somebody that you can have like this great meshing with all the time. It will probably lead to codependency. Rather look at those superficial factors of, does this person make sense to be added to my life? And if the answer is yes, then move forward. Don't go too fast. Just, take it as a business thing. And through that, connection will develop. Through that, you can see, okay, this is somebody that I could have a connection with down the road, or this is never going to happen. But even if you feel like, oh, there's a small connection and this connection can grow, but it is a connection that is based on longevity. It is somebody that you can build a life with. And that's what we're looking for. You're not giving up on your INFJ nature. You're not giving up on love. You're not giving up on like amazing chemistry just because you focus on those externally observable facts in order to make sure that this is something that's going to work in the long term. So remember, this is the perfect time to check out the INFJ Hermit Mode Playbook, get the Energy Management course or the Financial Abundance course for INFJs. Everything you need to know you can find through the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that isn't aligned with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.